Okay, hi guys, my name's Shannon. Welcome back to my channel. Awesome. Okay, so today I'm making a video I've been talking about making for a very, very long time. Pretty long time. A decently long time. It was highly requested, so hopefully you guys like it. Highly requested, like 10 people asked, but it's happening. Obviously you can read the title of the video, but I'm gonna be explaining just film photography for beginners. I've been shooting film for like 2 years myself, so I'm not sure that I'm like an expert. By no means am I an expert, but I know enough to help you get started if you wanna get into film photography, which I highly recommend you do because it's super fun and cool and dope. And then we'll finish the video by actually going around and taking some pictures and I'll show them to you guys, so. Okay. If you're interested in film photography, my number one first thing I think you should do is go and buy a disposable camera. Because the process of shooting your pictures and then going and getting them developed and like the time between taking the pictures and getting the pictures and the cost of what that costs to do and finding like your local camera shop and all this shit, it's a lot of stuff. You might find with that disposable camera that it's not something you're particularly interested in doing. We live in a very like instant gratification type of world where like you can take your iPhone out and take a photo and it's there. You might think you like film and you might like the idea of film, but then you might actually be doing and taking film pictures and be like, okay, I want the picture now. Before you waste your money, get a disposable camera and make sure that you like it and that there's like a place that's local that you can actually go get your film developed and it's not $1 million because it can be expensive. It can be really expensive. So if you buy a disposable camera and you decide that you like it, I recommend that you get an analog camera, kind of like this one. This is the first film camera I ever took pictures with. It's a Canon AE1. It's just a pretty standard analog camera. I'm gonna link in the description below this article that I looked at when I bought this camera. It just recommends like the 6 best 35mm type cameras that you should start with. They're all pretty similar to this. This is a Canon AE1, but you can see that this Pentax K1000 is very, very similar. And both these cameras are on the list. The reason I recommend you get a camera like this is because it's a pretty manual camera and it will teach you like the settings of a camera. It's also not super expensive and the pictures are beautiful. Like it takes amazing, beautiful film pictures. There's no flash on it, so if you're just trying to buy a camera to like go to parties and take like flash cool film pictures, this is not the camera you want. But if you're actually seriously interested in film photography, definitely recommend a camera like this or any from this list that is in the description. You can buy a camera like this in like a local camera shop probably, or honestly on Amazon they have some of these. I don't know if they'll be the best quality of the camera you could buy, but I've definitely bought cameras on Amazon before. I think I actually bought this camera on Amazon. Okay, now I'm gonna kind of tell you guys about like the settings on your camera, which is gonna sound like a mouthful, but I promise it's not that hard. You can figure it out, I promise. There are essentially 3 big settings on a film camera and on any camera that you need to know to understand how to take a good picture. Those settings are the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO. And now I'm gonna break down each one of those things for you as easily as I can. They're not that hard, but they just sound so annoying, but I'm gonna do it in the easiest way possible. Basically, you're trying to use a combination of those 3 things to get the right exposure on your picture, and exposure is just like the right kind of brightness. So if a picture is overexposed, it's super bright and like washed out, you can't see anything. And if a picture is underexposed, it's super dark and you can't see anything. Let's start with ISO. ISO is film speed. Essentially, the lower the ISO, so like an ISO 100, you need more light for your pictures to be exposed properly. And then the higher ISO, like ISO 800, you need less light for the picture to turn out. But this is like pretty complicated, and if you're a beginner photographer, I recommend that you start with 400 ISO film. 400 is just like a happy medium. It's kind of like, you can't really go wrong. There are a lot of different types of film that you can buy, a lot of different brands of film that you can buy. The only thing that's important is if you're starting out, start with 400 ISO, and honestly, you can get the cheapest film that your store sells. Or you can buy it on Amazon, same thing. Whatever's cheapest. It doesn't matter because honestly, a lot of your photos are not gonna turn out, or they're gonna be out of focus, and you don't wanna waste more money than you have to. It's like, Film is very trial and error, and you have to start to figure out and learn your camera and learn all these settings I'm about to explain to you, but you don't want to waste your money. So for example, this is Kodacolor 200 film, but this roll of film is like $3. This is Portra 400, and this roll of film is $7. This is the film I've been using recently, but if I had started using this film, I would be really pissed because I'll show you some of my beginning photography film pictures right here. It would have been a really big waste of money because all those photos didn't turn out, and that happened a lot. And that will happen to you, and that's okay. Don't give up hope. Keep taking pictures because they will get better. Okay guys, I was editing the video and I realized I forgot a few things that I wanted to say. A lot of you asked me where you get your film developed. I can tell you the exact place that I do in LA. I get it at this place called Gold 1 Hour Photo. It's in Koreatown, but you don't all live in LA. So what you're gonna do is just search your area and find a place that develops film. I really recommend that you don't go to a place like Walgreens or CVS because they ship all their film out now and it takes forever. If for some reason you don't have one in your town, you can always ship it off yourself. You could just Google that too. There's places that will develop them for you. The cost of getting your film developed depends on where you go and what kind of process you do. For me, the place that I go to, it costs like $12 a roll. I have them email it to me, and it's like an extra $4 for them to email, and then $1 for every roll after. So I only go when I can dump a bunch of film at once. Depending on where you're getting your film developed, they might be able to email it to you, or you can go in with like a memory card and they can put it on a memory card. I don't buy prints. If I were to get a print, I would just print it myself later on. But I forgot to mention that with the ISO, you're gonna have to actually manually set that on your camera. Since you're only shooting 400 ISO, you can set this and then you can just leave it. You're gonna pull up this little silver ring on the same spot where your shutter speed settings are. You pull it up and you twist it, and you can see in this little tiny window are the numbers, and you just wanna set it to 400 and leave it there. Okay, back to the video with the nice quality and the good lighting. Okie dokie. The next thing we have to talk about is aperture. Aperture, aperture, aperture. I feel like I'm a teacher. I'd probably be a pretty good teacher, honestly. Give this video a thumbs up if you wish I was your teacher. Aperture is how open or closed your lens is. If your aperture is set wide open, that means that your lens is wide open and it lets in the most light. If your aperture is closed or more closed, then it's gonna be like this, right? And it'll let in less light. 5 seconds after I say I'd be a good teacher, I give a not so awesome example. So I'm just gonna put this diagram here. It says the same thing that I just said, but it might make more sense. You set the aperture by changing the f-stop on your camera. For instance, on this camera, the f-stop goes from 1.8 to 16. The lower the number, like on this camera, 1.8, that means this lens is wide open. The higher the number, 16, closed, more closed. The really important thing about aperture, other than how much light and whatever not light it lets in, is that it controls your depth of field. So basically, if you wanted to take like a portrait of your friend and you want them to be in focus and you want the background to be out of focus, then your aperture would be closer to like a 1.8. When you have it more closed, like at 16, then kind of everything will be in focus. You might set your aperture to 16 f-stop if you wanted to take like a landscape photo and you wanted everything in focus. To be able to shoot at 16, you need more light. Does this make sense? I'm sweating. Last thing, shutter speed. It is pretty self-explanatory. It sounds exactly like it is. It's how fast your shutter closes, right? Shutter speed. The shutter speed on this camera goes from 2 to 1,000, okay? What does that mean? I'll tell you, don't worry. 1,000 means 1/1000th of a second, which means that's how fast the shutter opens and closes, which is very fast, obviously. It's like 2 would mean that the lens opens and stays open for 2 whole seconds. Obviously, if you keep your lens open for 2 seconds, you're letting a lot of light in. If you keep your lens open for 1/1000th of a second, you're letting not as much light in. When you go below any number after 60, so 1/60th of a second, you really should be using a tripod with your camera because otherwise you're gonna have like camera shake. If you have the shutter speed set to 2 seconds, you might be taking a picture where, if you've ever seen a photo where like cars are passing by, and they just look like lights, that's how you do that, by keeping the shutter open longer. But if you're doing beginner photography, you're not gonna use that. So basically, if you're a beginner photographer, don't do anything below 1/60th of a second, or your picture will be blurry. So all of that together might sound super overwhelming, but it's not that crazy because I've already told you what ISO to use, 400 ISO. What is happening? So you really only have to figure out 2 settings, and that's the aperture and the shutter speed. And you can do it, I promise, you can figure this out. It's easier than it sounds. Inside of your camera, there will be a light meter. The light meter looks like this, and it goes from here to here, and then there's a center tick right here, and it's on the right side of this camera's on the right side. Essentially, if you set your camera's settings and the thing is going like this, then that means your picture will be overexposed. If it's down here, then it's gonna be underexposed, and what you're trying to do is get it directly in the center. How you do that is by changing your f-stop and your shutter speed, either one or both, to try to get it right in the middle.
Oh,
hi.
sorry.
It's okay.
Brandon is here?
What is it?
Brandon? Sorry.
Don't be sorry, it's okay. No worries. She's like, what are you doing? I think the easiest way possible to set your camera is kind of decide how much you want in or out of focus. So set your f-stop first. Once you get there, then I would change your shutter speed and try to get your needle right in the middle. So if the needle is too high and your picture is going to be overexposed, you either need to increase your shutter speed, so take it from like 1/60th of a second to 1/1000th of a second to let less light in, or you need to close your lens up a little bit to let less light in. It's really hard to say. Take it from a 1.8 to like a 5 or whatever. You have to close it up a little bit. Either way, you're just trying to let less light in. Okay, and if your picture is underexposed and the needle's down here, then you need to do the complete opposite. You need to let more light in. It's all about light. You're just trying to control the light, which you can't control the light, but you can control how much light you let in. Thank God I said it. Okay. Ow! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I was sitting on something, my butt's asleep. If everything I just said is so overwhelming and you're like, ew, I hate that, and I don't want to learn how to do that, that's totally fine. You can 100% invest your money in a point and shoot camera. I have a few point and shoot cameras. This is a point and shoot camera. There are no settings on this camera other than like auto, flash, flash off, auto with an eye next to it. I don't know what that setting is, I don't use it. Okay, a point and shoot camera is exactly like what it sounds like. You point it and you shoot it and it's totally automatic, as opposed to these cameras, which are manual. I didn't explain that properly, but now you know. This camera will give you that filmy effect to your photos without you having to really learn about photography, and they're just fun to have. I have this, and I have this, and I have this, and I have this. You can't see them, but I have 3 Pentax ones. I have 1 Canon. I use these cameras a lot. I always try to keep one of these cameras in my purse. I always try to have a camera on me at all times just to challenge myself to take more pictures, because I think that's the only way you get better. They're also really good for taking out and like having a flash. Like those cameras have flashes. This camera does not have a flash. That's kind of more of like a party, go out, whatever. I recommend you get something like a Canon Sure Shot or a Pentax zoom. There's a bunch of Pentax IQ zooms, or like an Olympus. All those are good brands, and I'm actually giving away one of my point and shoot cameras in this video. Ooh. I'm gonna give this camera away to someone, a Pentax IQ Zoom 120. Very cute. I've taken a couple cool pictures on this camera. All you have to do to win this camera is follow my film Instagram account, @NowThisIsFilm, and comment on my most recent post about why you would like to own this camera, and I'm gonna pick one person and I'm gonna send it to you. I don't care where you live, anywhere in the world, I'll send it to you. If you want to have your own point and shoot camera, that was once mine. I touched it, held it, it kind of stinks. You want a stinky camera? Do those things. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see the pictures you take with it. Okay, hopefully I answered most of your questions. If you guys have any other questions, please leave them below in the comments and I'll go through and answer some. Okay, I'm gonna go out and shoot with this bad boy and show you guys the pictures, so hope you like it. We just got downtown. I'm with Alex and Jess and me, and we're gonna take pictures of Cristal and Alisa Ramirez, so we're just waiting for them to get downtown. This is Nala. Alisa. Oh, gorgeous. Sadie. Okay. The crew. My two faves. Thank you for that shoot. It was amazing. I'm sweaty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And especially thank Nala.
A special thanks to Nala. Made every picture worth it.